What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the most awesomest homesteading channel on the planet that has nothing to do with homesteading off the grid. Big shout out to subscriber and follower Zach Brown, who sent me a very kind email, as well as hundreds of others of you who flooded me with emails last night. Keep them coming. This is wonderful. Since the doom and gloom never happened and that crowd's gone, it's like everybody that watches now is so supportive. Zach Brown mentioned he doesn't know why I say I don't homestead when indeed I do. We homeschool our child. We've gotten out of the soul trap where, go to school, get good grades, work for a big company that gives you good health insurance and a pension for 30 years, then wonder why you're miserable and don't have anything left anyway, and you still have to work part-time in retirement because that pension only covers 60% of your needs. And Zach points out about how that mindset and that thought process is homesteading. It's not just where you're living and what you're doing. So Zach, thank you for your kind words. I'm going to address a couple of other kind emails I received throughout the readings from today's stories, but I want to start with one. It's from Nathan in New Zealand. It's very short, just a paragraph. But you remember yesterday I shared Linda's story, and she talked about how back in 1973, the year I was born, when she was 12, I believe, her family was pretty much followed home by a UFO or a UAP that was racing from mountaintop to mountaintop. And then when they got home, the priest who lived beside them bum rushed the car and pretty much said a UFO was hovering over your house, and there was all this strange substance on the ground afterwards, not unlike the strange fog we've been seeing here lately with whatever's in it. Listen to this. This is from Nathan. Hi there, Kevin. I'm from New Zealand, and I can confirm Linda's story. Okay, and I just reminded you of the story. It's from yesterday's video. If you missed it, go back and watch it. It should pop up at the end of this video. Nathan continues. I knew Bob Gard, the pilot who was followed by a walnut shell craft up the Kekora coast for 300 miles playing games with his plane. He died 2 weeks ago from motor neuron. No, I don't know what that is, and I didn't want to add words to it, maybe like motor neuron disease. But Nathan, if you're watching, is that what that refers to? But then Nathan finishes by saying he never spoke out. So basically, how ironic is that? Back in 1973, here's Linda and her family coming back from a 3-hour-long drive trip, getting chased by this thing, and then we receive an email from Nathan, who was friends with the pilot that was up there with that thing, who just passed away a couple of weeks ago, and this pilot never spoke about it, never came out like publicly like a lot of you folks are doing. Wow. So we really do have something big going on here at this channel, and I humbly thank you for allowing me to be your voice. Yeah, we've got reach. We've got a huge social media reach. 1.5 million total subscribers and followers once you put all of our social media outlets together. Did anybody see old Mark Zuckerberg come out yesterday and pretty much say he was sorry for allowing the previous U.S. governmental administration to push him into censoring everything on Facebook, and he closed down accounts and put people in Facebook jail who were innocent, but by golly, now that free speech is allowed back, he's going to be the champion of free speech and blah, blah, blah. I got something to tell you about that. I don't trust that sucker as far as I could throw a UFO or a UAP. Personally, I think he's terrified of Donald Trump and he's trying to get his head off the chopping block. But it's interesting because he mentioned, and then I'm getting right back into the stories. Yeah, we have a page over there with more than 1 million followers on it, and it's in and out of Facebook jail. Listen to some of because he says, and it's all being watched by AI. So there's no human eyes over top of this stuff. So we go making 20,000, 30,000 a month on Facebook to making zero for however long they want us to be in Facebook jail. Sometimes it's weeks, sometimes it's months. It's been years, but we don't care because we're diversified. They hurt us once like that years ago when that's all we did. But now that we're all over the place and we've got affiliate marketing programs going on, my novels, book sales, Etsy stores, all the corporate sponsors like Viver, we got like 15 of them. When we lose that, it sucks missing out on that chunk, of income. But it does eventually come back. But he mentioned that the problem has been that his fact checkers became political, and that's where they were screwing people over with the censorship. I'm going to give you proof of that right now because I know a lot of you folks who watch this YouTube channel despise Facebook because of their censorship, and it's one-sided. If you're of a conservative nature and their bots can tell if that's you, whether you ever talk about politics or not, they will punish you. Okay, so here's an example. We have a Facebook page called Sick and Twisted Humor. Here was a recent violation, or one of last year. It said we made a post that said, again, mind you, Sick Twisted Humor. It's a joke page, right? One said, I've done some financial planning and I've determined I would be better off financially if I were dead. They put us in jail for that one because they said we were advocating suicide, which is a sensitive topic. Another one was, did you know that the original Coca-Cola had cocaine in it? Most people know that. That's how it got the name. And throughout the years, they've changed the flavors. They've had cherry Coke, vanilla Coke. One post read, Dear Coca-Cola, please stop coming out with new flavors. Either put the cocaine back in it or leave it the hell alone. Put us in Facebook jail for that, for advocating drug use. Now, mind you, these policies are real, but this is a joke page and a computer was seeing this, an AI bot, right? The third one was, the first 1 million people to send me $1 will receive a free copy of my book, How to Become a Millionaire on Facebook. Right? It's a joke. Bam! Puts us back in Facebook jail. So I requested a review. So finally a set of human eyes were put on it. The reviewer came back and said, nope, and said, please meet your reviewers. Okay. And again, I'm going back to watching Zuckerberg's speech yesterday for 3.5 minutes. Again, I will believe it when I see it. Listen, what I'm going to tell you right now are facts. Okay. I can only control what I say. I can't control how you take what I say. What I have to say is this. Our fact checkers sent us a picture and a bio to say, maybe you should meet your fact checkers. Okay. Our fact checker, who was employed by Meta, is a 28-year-old homosexual man who lives with his husband in San Antonio, Texas. And they are both graduates of, get this, Virginia Tech. Here I am, a post-middle-aged, rural white, straight male living with my wife in Charlottesville, Virginia, right outside of Charlottesville, who clearly is a UVA fan because I wear these hats in all my videos. So that little introduction was basically this guy's way of saying, you're not getting out of Facebook jail. We don't like you. That's how he meant it. That's how I took it. Mind you, I don't care if you're gay, bi, straight, trans, white, black, brown, Asian. I don't care. I love everybody. There's one race in the world as I see it, and that's the human race. And I think what makes us beautiful is our differences. Now, I'm not going to go out there and say, hey, I'm this way and you better agree with this. Even, that lunacy and nonsensical crap went overboard, and Zuck was coming out yesterday apologizing for it. And he says he's going to make sure these issues aren't issues anymore because blah, 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 blah. Again, I'll believe it when I see it. And number two, the only reason he's saying this is because he's terrified of Donald Trump. He wants to get his own head off the chopping block. There. So I just want to put that out there because I know you guys and girls have a very profound view on Facebook and the censorship that goes on over there. He says he's not going to do it anymore, but I've been on that platform as an earning content creator since 2011, I think. I will believe it when I see it. He's one of the biggest liars, Mark Zuckerberg, that I've ever seen. Now, let's go on with why we're here. And again, that started out because I truly wanted to thank you for allowing me to be your voice, because these stories do need to be told. And so when Linda came out with the courage to tell her story, Nathan came out and said, you know what, Linda's right, because I knew the guy that was the pilot up there in the jet chasing that thing around or getting chased by that thing in 1973 while Linda saw it. So this is proof we're not crazy. Strength in numbers, and thank you for letting me do this. This next email came in overnight from Katrina. Katrina writes, Dear Kevin, I want to start out by saying I am so sorry about your birds. I want to thank you for everything you do on your YouTube channel. My name is Katrina. I have to tell you about the UFO/UAP I saw in 2012 in McKinney, Texas. I lived on the 3rd floor at the time, and my apartment was in the back of the building. It backed up to a lot of forest with a swamp. I was getting ready for bed. I had just put my kids down and I heard a weird sound, one I haven't heard before, and it looked like someone was shining a light in my window. But again, I lived 3 stories up. How could that be? Pages are frozen together. It's 19 degrees out here. So I went to the window and lifted the shade and saw a weird-looking object hovering between my building and the woods. I was shocked. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I just stood there motionless, almost trance-like. Not sure what happened after that because I don't remember. So here's a loss of time. I woke up the next day there at the window, but the windows were open. I know for a fact I didn't open that window because it was too hard for me to open. I got up to take a shower and I was sore. My leg was throbbing and had a red mark. I chalked it up to a bad dream. I continued my day and my leg was still throbbing. It was still red in the area, so I put a Band-Aid over it. Later that night, I made sure all the windows in my house were secure. I even put paint sticks in them to keep them from opening. Yes, I was a little paranoid, but nonetheless, I needed to make sure nobody could get into the windows or open them. Fast forward to later that night, and that noise was back and the lights were back. I jumped into my bed, covered myself, and hid. I was sore and scared, and I felt really weird. Next morning, I woke up again on the floor by the window, but my Band-Aid was off, the paint stick was gone, and the window was open. I then noticed the red mark was gone. It was now a light pink, like it had healed over, but there was a lump, and that lump is still there, by the way. I moved my family to a hotel down the street and moved into a new apartment a week later. I demanded the complex put me on the first floor in a new building. Fast forward a few years later. I'm in a different part of Texas altogether, and I am now remarried, and I hear that sound, and I saw those lights. Only this time I have a protector. I woke up my husband and told him my leg hurts, and that sound is back, and the lights are back. He grabs his pew-pew. She wrote the real word, but again, we've got to worry about censorship here on social media. I don't care what they say. We cannot trust those who have shown us they're not trustworthy. All right? Fool me once. ... Husband grabs the pew-pew and walks outside. I am in tow, and he said I was just standing there in a trance. I could hear him calling out, but I could not respond. He had to pick me up and take me into the house. We do not know what this is or why it's out to get me, but every few years it comes back. It finds me. I would say I am out of my mind, but I have someone who has seen this UAP, and he has witnessed what happens to me when it comes around. Was I taken? Is that lump a tracking device? I do not know, but what I do know is that the thing I saw was oblong in the size of an 18-wheeler, maybe bigger, and the sound was a calming humming sound, almost like the ones people use to sleep with, only louder. People who have tinnitus, who need some background noise, I'm assuming she's talking about. The lights were bright, then oozed in and out like a very slow strobe light. I hope I don't sound like I'm a lunatic, but this has been bothering me for close to 16 years now. Thank you for listening to me. I hope you can maybe shed some light on this subject. Katrina. Yes, you can use my first name on your video if you decide to tell my story. I also have a story about the fog. Long story short, it almost killed my husband a few weeks ago. It made him very sick. Katrina, thank you for sending us your story. I'm more than happy to share it as I just did. And folks, make sure that when you send me these stories, you give me your permission to use them. We were set up by a couple of government shills before the climax of the false flag that never happened because they were trying to discredit us. They were sending us fake stories, and then I'd tell the story, and then they'd come out and retract the story and say they never gave me permission to share it, when it was clearly obvious. Why would a social media content creator who claims to be the voice of those who have had these experiences, willing to tell your stories, why would anybody send in a story they didn't want shared? So there were so many holes in the stories. So we had to kind of tighten up a little bit. It's not because I don't trust you. I just know these scammers are still out there. So make sure, like Katrina just did, you give me your permission to share your name and to share your story when you send it. Now, with that said, let's move on to Deborah's story. Deborah writes, "Hi, Kevin. My name is Deborah. My husband and I enjoy your videos and look forward to them each day. Tonight, my husband said, honey, you should tell him what you saw over McDill. I already like you guys. That's what me and my wife call each other. Honey, hun. Yeah. If she says my name, I'm in trouble. If I say hers, Well, she's never in trouble. It's just because she didn't hear me say hunt, so I have to yell, dearly. All right, here goes. About 2008, in the early summer, we were living in Florida and were across the bay from MacDill Air Force Base. My husband, an airplane pilot at the time, now retired, was in Beijing, and I was home alone with our 3 little Shih Tzus. Hey, you know what you get when you cross a pit bull with a Shih Tzu? A bull's... Finish it for me, ... censorship. All right, I always tell that joke when I see people out walking either pit bulls or Shih Tzus. They always laugh. It was nearing dusk, but still quite light out when I took the dogs out for their last visit before bed. So she's talking about going to the restroom. As I stood in the front yard, I heard what sounded like jet engines, not uncommon near an airbase, but immediately overhead, I saw a totally silent oval craft, about half the size of a cruise ship, directly over my head. This all happened so fast that it was hard to process. The craft was large, had what looked like windows between 2 flat discs, and she admits she's having a hard time describing it, but I can see it in my head, Deborah. It went ripping over my head, followed by 2 F-16s from MacDill, which were the jet engines I was hearing. The F-16s were quite obviously chasing the craft and losing the race badly. It left them in the dust. This whole thing took approximately 5 seconds, and when it was over, I was shaking my head trying to understand what I had just seen. Shortly after, my husband called, and I told him what I'd seen and said, maybe I'm wrong. It happened so fast, maybe I'm nuts. After talking for a few minutes, we hung up, but he called back a few minutes later. He'd gone online in Beijing and used a VPN to search UFO over Tampa Bay today. And he found dozens of reports exactly describing what I'd seen, with a lady in Lakeland, Florida, which is to the north of Tampa, lamenting, quote, the Air Force jets couldn't even get close to that thing. I never saw that craft again, and even though there were many online reports of that sighting, there was never any official mention of it or any news media mention of it either. Being that it was literally over MacDill, I've often wondered if it wasn't perhaps related to a military program. Thanks for giving us all a place to tell our stories, and although I've told some friends about this, I rarely discuss it unless asked. Please withhold my last name. Thanks, Deborah. Now, I'm going to take another break to address another short and sweet email I got last night. No, it wasn't about how great I was, but it was from the sender, and she wanted to remain anonymous with her first email, so I'm assuming that it's the same this time. I know her name. It was about how I wouldn't be surprised if this woman's not a therapist or a counselor, because she's the one that mentioned about how you've got the people who believe in the UFO phenomenon. Then there are us, those of us who are witnesses. And one of the reasons it's so difficult to come out and tell these stories, because when we tell exactly what we saw, exactly what we experienced, if it doesn't stay true to the line of the storyline, the worldview belief system of UFOs and UAPs, the people who have not been witness to this, but who do believe it's real, will often jump on us and attack us and tell us we're lying, and it makes us even more scared to come out and tell these stories. Now, I mentioned it was because those people had probably never known what unconditional love is like, and that's why they're so filled with hate. She did agree with me in a follow-up email, but she pointed out something I completely missed. The thing of it is these folks, they're cynics. They're very cynical. Now, I'm throwing that word in there. She didn't use that word. But this describes cynics, and this is why those folks act this way. Since they didn't have an experience, but they do believe in the phenomenon, they want to believe it exactly as it's supposedly written. So if you come out and your experience has any slight variation to what the storyline is, they will assume you're lying. And it's because it doesn't go with the narrative of what they do believe, but have never experienced. And it goes back to fear. That's the word she used. And so that's where I'm going to piggyback on how she's explaining this to talk to you about cynics. Think about anybody that you know who's cynical. Cynicism is rooted in fear, namely the fear of failure and the fear of being looked down upon or made fun of. Now, most cynics pride themselves on being very intelligent And many of them are. Some of them are highly educated. They've gotten, advanced degrees from name brand universities. Yet when you speak to them, and you can clearly tell they're intelligent, you have to wonder, why are they so closed-minded? You can have an experience like this, talk to a cynic who believes in the phenomena, but then when you tell them your story, if it varies from the strict script, they'll tell you you're a liar and you're making stuff up and you're just not as smart as me. You're too dumb to know what's in your best interest. And you think, why is that? Well, it's because of the insecurities they possess deeply rooted inside of them. But that fear, it's the fear of, and this is what she said in the email, it's the fear of being wrong about something they want to believe in. Because once you realize you're wrong, or that something might not be exactly as your worldview dictates to you, that's just how it is, it makes you question what else might be going on out there that you believe is a certain way that isn't. And then it makes you say to yourself, well, I might not be quite as knowledgeable as I believe I am, or that I go around telling people I am. And I know this sounds very familiar, right? It sounds like ignorance. That's why if you look at the opposite demographic as far as intel and education goes, and you think of just uneducated, ignorant folks with no experiences, they have a fear of learning about things they don't already understand because it makes them realize how much stuff is out there they don't understand, so they remain closed-minded. Likewise and inversely, on the opposite educational demographic end, you have highly intelligent, highly educated people who are just as closed-minded as the folks they would call ignorant hicks. And it's because of that fear of being wrong, their concept of their worldview not being correct, because then they have to take a look around and pretty much say, maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am. That's why the people that do believe in this but have never experienced it love to jump on those of us who have experienced it when our stories veer off of the strict script. But you guys are coming up with the courage to send me your stories. You're allowing me to be the voice. I've got some awesome moderators on this channel. We got Captain Shriver, Mike, Pastor Shriver. We got Linda, who's helping moderate. They're going through, and when they find those cynics that are attacking you folks who have had your real experiences, they're banning them from the channel. Because we've got so many folks coming in, I can no longer do it by myself. My editor, Lady Yuri, she would help from time to time, but she's actually got a real job. So we've got the help here. So do not let the closed-minded cynics who aren't quite as smart as they'd like to think they are keep you from telling your story. You send it in. The email address, by the way, is crazylake@mail.com. Now, let's get on to the third and the last story for today. This one comes from Karen. Trigger alert. I'm going to wipe my nose on my sleeve like a 3-year-old. At least I'll hide it from view. Censorship. All right. Hi, Kevin. Hope you and your family are well. Thank you for what you do for us. I have a story that I've been trying to figure out for 19 years, and I can't believe I came across your channel. See? That's why this is so important, and that's why I will not stop doing what I'm doing, even though I'm attacked by shills, bots, trolls, fans of scab channels who try to steal my content and then get butthurt when I actually stand up for myself. You know, I've been meaning to tell you this for days. In the middle of Charlottesville, there's this generational family-owned and operated grocery store called Reed's Grocery. My wife and I love to go by there at least once a quarter when we're passing through because it's so quaint to walk into that old store. You see the same faces have been working there for years and years. We walked in that store earlier this week because we were in town buying some new tires for the truck and just down the road from there. We go in the grocery store and like 80% of the shelves are empty. And, you know, I walk over to the employees, a couple of older folks that have been in there for years, and I'm like, are you guys going out of business? And they said, yeah, Saturday's our last day. And I was like, what happened? And the short of it's this. Yeah, they took a hit during COVID, but they got the funds to get through that. But the single biggest reason they now have to close shop, second generation to own it, is because of rampant theft, shoplifting. And I was like, what's going on? Are the cops not getting here quick enough to catch these people? She said, Kevin, the cops don't even come anymore. She said, it's so bad. She says people will walk in this grocery store. They'll walk down the aisles, just grab what they want, and then turn around and walk right back out the door. And she'll say, hey, or she said, we'll say, hey, you're going to pay for that? And they look at you and roll their eyes and tell you, what you can do with yourself, or they laugh at you. She says all day, every day. And it's gotten to the point to where they have to go out of business. And it's because in recent years, especially, too many folks have been told it's perfectly okay to take what doesn't belong to you. Steal. Just go. You want it. You see something you want, whether it's an item in a grocery store, something at a convenience store, or social media content that someone else created. Oh, I like that. Let's upload that on our channel. So many people have been shown that, hey, it's perfectly okay to steal what belongs to someone else, that they get mad when you question it. Yeah. So this mom and pop grocery store, one of our favorite little businesses in Charlottesville, and it's been down there for over 50 years, gone out of business because of all the people that think it's perfectly okay to just walk into any establishment, any social media platform, see something you like and just take it and not, like, hey, you don't have to pay for this. Oh, you didn't create that? Oh, that's okay. Oh, look at that Van Gogh painting. I didn't paint that, but you know what? I'm going to say I did. Why don't I just come out here and read you a Stephen King short story and tell you I wrote it, not give him the credit like I give the folks who do give me their stories with permission to share. I tell you, if you get upset because people stand up for themselves for protecting their rights when they're mistreated, when a crime is committed against them, you're as guilty as the criminal that did it. All right. Karen continues. I live in Pikes County, Pennsylvania in 2003 to 2006. She lived there. I worked 2 hours away from my home and traveled Route 402 every night from Flemington, New Jersey. In 2006, I left work at 9 p.m., which brought me to Route 402 by 11 p.m. I always knew where my house was by this little building on Route 402, as my house was only 5 minutes from that building. But one night, I don't remember getting to my driveway in that 5 minutes period of time. I woke up on the side of 402 at 3 a.m. Mind you, she got there at 11, so this would be 4 hours later. And with nothing around me but woods and the road. My car was running when I woke up, and I cannot for the life of me remember where the hell I was or how the hell I got there. I turned my car around and drove to my house, which was only about 25 feet from where I woke up. I felt silly writing this and spoke to very few people about it. Okay, so the next day I went to work and mentioned that to a coworker, and she was on her way out in the lot and noticed 2 plunger marks on my windshield, then 2 on the back window also. Boy, we were in shock because to this day, I don't know where they came from, but I was scared. So, 2 days later, I went to bed. I had no bedroom door yet in my newly built home because I wasn't sure what sort of door I wanted to put there. I heard noises in the house, sounded like they were in the flue in my wood-burning stove. I went into the living room to look, but there was nothing there. It was not moving, but the noise it made as if it were moving back and forth was still there for a few minutes. So it sounded like somebody was moving her flue back and forth, but it wasn't moving. I was scared. Then I looked up on my ceiling, and there were 7 orbs on my ceiling. I looked all around to see if there was any light shining on the ceiling, but no other lights were shining in my house. I went online to a group who was into investigating ghosts and strange phenomena, and I asked what the orbs on my ceiling could have been, as I thought they were some kind of spirits or something, but one person said, no, they're beings. Okay, that scared me. I was always hearing something like a body would throw itself down on my floor outside my bedroom, and it was hard and loud. Whenever I went to do my laundry in my basement, I would hear someone walking around, but when I ran up to check with my pew-pew, again, I had to censor out the real word, she used it, of course, always on me, nothing was there. I am now convinced that through all of this that's been happening now, here lately, that I witnessed something we're all seeing here as of late. All these orbs, drones, plasmoids, the fog. So she was seeing this years ago. I packed up my house and got the hell out. The house was sold, and the young couple that bought it said they have not had anything happen to them, but I did mention it when I visited the house in 2022, and she was kind of afraid, so I'm sure she's paying attention to it. I bought a weird Pennsylvania book back in 2007, I think it was, not positive what year I bought it. But in that book, it said that there were UFOs spotted on Route 402, Pikes County, Pennsylvania. I still cannot remember what happened during the time I lost that night to this day, and it kind of freaks me out when I see these orbs and drones. I'm in Hackettstown, New Jersey now. This is an honest-to-goodness story and as true blue as they come. You can publish it if you want. My name is Karen. Thank you for helping me get this out of my head and on paper for others to see that this crap is so real. No matter what it is, it really is happening. Thank you, Karen. Karen, and everybody else who sent in stories, thank you. And yes, the stories are coming and they're good ones, and I might have to go back to trying to make 2 videos a day to get them all out there. Remember, they are also being published in the True Haunting volumes, which are available on Amazon and print and Kindle. You'll find the links to those in the description box below. Thank you again for letting me be your voice, and thank you. It was crazy. We were really getting eaten alive and beat up and torn up and actually threatened, our lives threatened up until Inauguration Day. But now those cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs cynics are gone. We've just got mostly witnessers here. People who've had these experiences and believers who are not toxic. Hey, as long as you're civil, you can disagree with anything anybody said. You can disagree with anything I said. Just don't insult us in your disagreements, and you're always welcome here. You can disagree with every video we make, as long as you do it civilly. We're not censoring. We just don't put up with bullying, harassment, and threats. Thanks for being here for another episode on this, the greatest homesteading channel on the planet that, hey, as our emailer, Zach Brown, wrote, has more to do with homesteading, I guess, than I thought. Homesteading off the grid. See y'all for more next time.